Buckle up, Buttercups. This is going to be a ride.
I am Dr. Buckles, here to tighten the belt on your opinion.
Begin!
Myth of Empires is different from other survival games because it has a vertical progression system. A level 60 isn't necessarily stronger than a level 40 just because you gain more character experience. Character strength comes from proficiency. Proficiency in Myth of Empires is the lifeblood of your combat potential. While other survival games have a level system and a secondary system like assignable stat points, Myth of Empires is unique in its proficiency system. This system allows for vertical scaling and a deep sense of character worth because you have to invest hundreds of hours into your character to reach the peak. While at the surface it may appear to be a daunting task, proficiency grinding can be done mostly passively or at the very least in a way that feels borderline exploitative. I'm not talking about the type of exploits that get you banned, I'm talking about the actual sense of the term. The proficiencies in Myth of Empires really are the core of your combat potential, but you don't always gain raw power. Yes, improving your proficiency will increase the damage you deal. And yes, armor proficiencies reduce the damage you take. But there are other factors that you'll probably want to improve too. Let me take you down a rabbit hole. I promise we'll come out on the other side. So let's say you're level 15 and you can shoot maybe 50 arrows before your bow breaks because everybody that starts this game wants to be a Mongol horse archer. You start combat, draw the attention of a few too many hostiles, and now your chest piece breaks. Well, you can work to improve that in two ways. One, you can level up your toughness and armor skills by breaking even more armor, albeit deliberately, or two, you can improve your armorer skill to craft higher durability equipment. But if you want to level your armoring skill, it's probably best to level crafting first so you can craft items faster, because the crafting time is pretty ridiculous the further you get. But now you're going to need copper coins to level your crafting, to level armoring, to level toughness and your armor skill. So you have to fight. Messy, right? Let's say you're level 60, and you've got your weapons, armor, and toughness skills up, but you've slacked on crafting or haven't spent much time recruiting. Your guild is big enough, and you feel strong enough to try and claim a magistrate title, but your opponent is an equal match. Let the fight begin. 10 minutes into the battle, your armor starts breaking. While the enemy is relentless in their attacks, you may lose this fight because, well, you've just run out of equipment. It's probably your crafting levels, or your warrior arts, or your guild skill levels, but let's climb out of this rabbit hole for now. Stats work a little differently than you'd probably expect. See, all the proficiencies combine through some complex math to improve your core stats, but they cap at 100. Your core stats can be found on your character page by going to your inventory and clicking on the button on the right side of the screen that has the same icon as the talents and skill button at the top of the screen. These core stats give a pretty significant boost to your character, but there's no simple way to reach 100. Leveling all of your proficiencies creates a higher core stat than trying to max out one at a time. Now, for the efficiency parts. I can't recommend it strongly enough. You should find an established guild to join as soon as possible. The amount of currency required to upgrade skills is going to become absurd at the higher end. Not to mention, you need at least 10 members in your guild if you want to try and contest a county title to get the kickback of taxes. And while you might be able to find enough people to break that threshold, and your alliance can reinforce you in a county battle, if you set your aim higher, like prefecture battles, your guild members are the only ones that can participate on your team. If title fights aren't your cup of tea, the durability bonuses that can come from other guild skills or the vast fortune skill that I mentioned earlier will be a huge quality of life benefit that you definitely want. As far as character building goes, there's some more general advice before we get into specifics. Generally speaking, when you reach 750 proficiency, two things happen. 1. You get your talents that reduce the durability loss by a substantial amount. I think it's 42% on any given item. And 2, you hit the most expensive breakthrough. It takes almost 3 million copper coins to purchase all your breakthroughs, but it only costs 625k to reach 750 in everything. 1/5 of the total price. While you should definitely aim to reach 900, most people would say that you're combat effective at least at an entry level at 750 proficiency. Now let's dive deeper. Here's my recommendation for priorities for leveling from 0 to hero in Myth of Empires. First, carry weight is a real bear in this game. In toughness, there are perks at 75 and 600 to increase your carry capacity. After 600 toughness, the maximum carry weight in the game is 250, but there are perks to reduce the weight of materials in your inventory by up to 50%. Those perks are at 450 in mining and lumbering and 375 in hunting. These talents are all luckily enough to be in the physique category, so you're going to be gaining extra health along the way. But you probably won't be able to avoid combat to reach all these goals. After all, you're going to need copper for breakthroughs, so let's talk combat. Toughness will remain the first priority for breakthroughs if you find yourself unable to afford all your breakthroughs at the rate you progress. Second, you have combat skills. The easiest approach to combat is making yourself combat effective, particularly for PvP, but it holds true for PvE content as well. Heavy armor and two-handed weapons. Here's why. Two-handed weapons have a perk called Killstreak Recovery. At 300 proficiency, you gain 8 hit points per second for 30 seconds for getting the final blow with a two-handed weapon. Now that's not going to scale very well as you progress, but at 900 proficiency, it's basically a free health potion after every kill. Heavy armor has more defense than light armor, and it also helps that it's a strength-based stat. So as you receive damage, you will indirectly improve your strength ability that'll help you deal more damage with the two-handed weapon. Third, I recommend leveling recruitment. Do you remember the rabbit hole that we leapt into earlier, where your low durability crafted gear resulted in difficult combat or frequently broken equipment requiring you to collect even more materials with low durability? Well, that's where subjugation comes in. If you haven't tried knocking out a warrior yet, you can take a look at the video I made to trap a high quality NPC to make recruiting easier. But you'll want to level recruitment to 675 in order to be able to recruit the highest level and highest quality warriors, though you probably won't be able to fight them effectively for some time. By leveling recruitment, you can put a warrior on a workbench and have them craft things while you go do other things, because time is valuable, right? Who wants to spend 45 minutes crafting a meteoric chess piece that's going to break in about 45 minutes worth of combat? Now, here's some quality of life improvements. The first quality of life upgrade is one-handed weapons. By going for 750 proficiency, you can reduce the durability loss of all your gathering tools, not just weapons, as they're considered one-handed weapons. It's also worth mentioning that if you've taken my advice so far, you're going to be knocking out warriors to recruit them via one-handed weapons. So increasing the damage you do per swing with a knockout club is something you didn't know you wanted yet. Second is probably riding. You'll find that the act of mounting and dismounting in this game is unbearably slow until you reach 525 proficiency. I'd recommend paying for the first breakthrough as soon as you reach it, but afterwards riding can probably be left alone for a while. Medicine is also something that you'll want to level as often as you can. At 900 proficiency in medicine, foods and potions are twice as effective, and this scales a lot better than the two-handed Killstreak Recovery talent. An honorable mention is crafting. When you can afford to, breaking through crafting is worth doing at least to 600 to get the increased crafting speed perks. Some things like straw rope have to be crafted in your inventory, and this talent will work towards that as well. Armor is also worth getting at least to 525, especially when you're wearing heavy armor, because it reduces the weight of all the armor in your inventory. Fun fact, I can go into county and prefecture battles with my entire war loadout, and my equipment and even spare horse armor in my inventory is still below half of the weight limit of those battles. Leveling building to 525 is also immensely helpful, so you can reduce the repair cost of everything that can be repaired, like siege engines or guild resource collections. Without this skill, expect a 1-to-1 ratio of what it costs to initially build something that aligns with its remaining durability. So if something is at 50% durability, it will cost 50% of the materials it did to build it in order to repair it. In fairness, I haven't discussed every skill that has a proficiency in Myth of Empires. There's a lot I didn't cover. This video has been aimed at getting your character into PvP relevance as quickly as possible. If you want to stand out in PvP, there's 2 other skills you'll need. You should focus on leveling your riding, polearm, and maybe even hunting to 900. PvP in Myth of Empires is largely determined by the cavalry meta, as the damage scaling from speed and polearms makes a substantial difference. Hunting also makes you do more damage to enemy horses, so if your horse is getting one shot in PvP, it's safe to assume the enemy has high hunting skills. But with this information, you should also know that you'll need a good horse to really stand out, so now you either need to lean into earning a lot of currency or begin a breeding program for horses, which requires taming. Siege and building also work against each other in the sense that a high building skill will shine against players with low siege, and the inverse is true too. A high siege skill shines against a low building skilled opponent. But to check all the boxes, here's my opinion on all the other skills. Shield is useful only to absorb damage and increase your strength stat. It's worth leveling for completion, but I would only level it to 600 or maybe 750 if you can afford it to get the strength stat and neglect it afterwards. Projectiles, bows, crossbows, and light armor are a playstyle. It's viable late game. It's so resource intensive, it's basically throwing money at your problem to make them go away. More so at lower proficiencies. Planting is a breeze to level as there's no currency, talent book, or comprehension locked talents. You just have to pay for the breakthroughs. It helps your physique out too, which is really convenient. It's also a chore. Command and drill help, but they're not really worth pursuing. If you're familiar with Conan Exiles, you know how it can change your life to have a good warrior do the work for you. That said, their combat logic sucks. And I found that the burden of hauling them around to take away almost any benefit they offer for general purpose use. They break weapons and armor very quickly, and they're a chore to revive if something unfortunate happens. Drill only serves as a way to make your warriors grow more rapidly, and there's no gain beyond 750 aside from the passive skill trait to increase experience gain. And Renown, finally, is the most slept on skill, but you'll really only feel it at 900 proficiency, where you gain a phenomenal talent that makes you deal 5% more damage to anyone who doesn't have as much renown as you.